Hey gang, it's Jay from JayTech and welcome to another JayTech video. And in this video, I will be telling you guys about my top 5 favorite smartphones of the 2010s. The 2010s ushered in a new decade of innovation. Some of the world's best smartphone manufacturers brought their A game in this decade, and I believe these are my 5 favorite smartphones that we've seen in the last 10 years. Number 5, we'll start with the iPhone 5. The aluminum design, especially with the all black colorway, it just looked stunning. iOS 6 and this design just worked so well. The whole glossy 3D skeuomorphic icon design, beautiful aluminum backing on this phone made such a match in heaven, and I believe the iPhone 5 to this day remains Apple's best designed iPhone. In terms of design, I don't think anything has ever come close. I'm hearing rumors that the 2020 iPhones are going to get a design similar to what we saw in the iPhone 5 and 5S, and I'm hoping that's the case. I really am hoping that's the case. We've seen such a design come back in form of the iPad Pro versions, but this phone I feel was the best of Apple in terms of just looks and design, but it's still for me the best iPhone I've ever seen, and that's why it makes my list at number 5. At number 4 is the Samsung Galaxy Note 3. When this phone came out in 2013, I was skeptical. At this time I wasn't, and I still am not, a fan of huge smartphones, but the Note 3 changed my mind in terms of how it worked so well with S Pen. And yes, at this time also, TouchWiz was at its very, very worst. But S Pen is just such an integral feature in terms of Note phones. That's why they're my favorite large-sized phones. The Note 3 with that beautiful 5.7-inch 1080p AMOLED display just changed my mind on everything. And I know its design at this time was made of plastic, but still, that soft touch full leather design, and with the leather covers, especially the white version. I wasn't so much a fan of the black version of the Note phones. The white version just looked so sleek and beautiful. My sister had this phone and she, well, destroyed it. But whenever I got to use it, it was just something to behold. It still remains for me one of my favorite Galaxy Note devices of all time. But this phone is what stoked my interest in the phablet aspect of smartphones, and that's why it comes in at number 4 on this list. At number 3 is the LG Google Nexus 5. Whenever I thought of Android KitKat, I always thought of the Google Nexus 5. That beautiful black design, the camera bump, everything about this phone in terms of looks, in terms of usability, in terms of feature set, and the fact that it's stock Android, it just made so much sense. This phone was ahead of its time with what it did, and I believe that Google really should have maintained this phone for a bit longer. I would love for Google to release, say, like a Nexus SE or Pixel SE with this phone's design. It's one of the best looking smartphones I've ever used, especially the black version. I put this phone on solely because of just how well it worked with stock Android, and that's why it comes in at number 3 on my list. And at number 2 is the Samsung Galaxy S8. What more can I say about this phone? This phone for me pushed smartphone design to a different level. The curved edge-to-edge infinity display, the beautiful glass. For me, this I still think is up there in terms of smartphone design. But not only that, the feature set on this phone just improved from what we had with the Galaxy S7. USB Type-C, a beautiful class-leading camera at the time, quick charge 2.0, an IP rating. This phone just had it all, except for battery life. And in terms of fragility, the glass was a little too weak for my liking on this phone. But that doesn't take away from how important this phone was in this decade to push smartphone design to a next level. And I feel sorry for LG. LG made the LG G6 and started the whole 18:9 aspect ratio trend. But when Samsung dropped the Galaxy S8, phone designs just have never been the same. I would love for you to look at smartphone designs before the Galaxy S8 and smartphone designs after the Galaxy S8. You will see a large shift in how we went in terms of design, and I feel like the Galaxy S8 is still usable for at least a couple more years into the 2020s, and that's why it makes it on number 2 on my top 5 smartphones of 2010s list. And before we get to number 1, let's give you some honorable mentions. Samsung Galaxy S2 didn't make it on this list because it just didn't age very well. But why it's an honorable mention is because it gave me a broader understanding of how well Android was going to be. I saw the future of Android in this smartphone, and it made me appreciate this operating system at a time when I thought Android was just a buggy version of iOS. The Huawei Ascend P6. Now this was an important phone for Huawei. This was at the time when no one knew who Huawei were, and they were just beginning to get their feet rolling in the smartphone market on a global scale. The reason why this phone did not make it was because of its app compatibility issues. At that time, Kirin processors did not work well with Google Play apps. For all its beautiful design and powerful specs, it just did not work well with most apps on the Google Play Store, and that's why it shied away from this list. And at number 3 on my honorable mentions list is the Samsung Galaxy S3. This was the first smartphone that started the curved edge design. This phone was a feature set above everything else, but the reason why it did not make it in my final list was, just like the Galaxy S2, aging. It did not age well. I feel Samsung phones before the Galaxy S6 aged badly and didn't function very well, but after the Galaxy S6, phones like the S7, S8, S9 and onwards have reasons to stay in use for at least 3, 4 to 5 years. And the Galaxy S3 for me only had at least 3 years at the top before you could call it a day. So we come to the final countdown. Number 1 on this list, hands down, probably my favorite smartphone of all time, the HTC One M7. Maybe even the M8, but I would just say the first 2 HTC One phones. What can I say about this phone that hasn't been said by so many experts, so many tech vloggers, so many phone reviewers, so many top tech YouTubers? This phone is probably the most functional, the most durable, the most premium, the most high-end phone of this very decade. This was HTC at its very, very best. If you wanted premium Android smartphones, you looked no further than HTC. And the HTC One M7 just brought that to a whole new level. The only phone in this list that has front-firing speakers. That aluminium unibody design that I feel Apple got inspired by with the iPhone 6. Even to this day, whenever I hold this phone in my hand, whenever I use it, it's just such a beautiful, timeless design. Its feature set with boom sound, blink feed, Sense UI was at the peak of Android skins. It wasn't too obtrusive. It's one of my favorite Android UIs. It was a perfect phone. I dreamt of this one. I always cried whenever I saw my friends have or flex this phone around. For me, the HTC One M7 and the M8 were just unstoppable. I don't think HTC have ever made phones that are so good. HTC fans, in the comments down below, do you think HTC have made phones better than the M7 or the M8? I'd like to know, because personally I don't think smartphones from HTC have been better than these two phones. It had a 4.7-inch 1080p Super LCD screen. And in 2013, that was unthinkable. HTC understood how smartphones should work. They understood how design should develop. And these two phones for me are the peak of technicality and functionality, and I don't think we'll ever get back to the level of the HTC One M7 and M8. And I hope they do come back one day and produce phones as great as the One M7 and the One M8 were. And I'm a huge fan of HTC, and I'm praying that one day they do come back and create phones that were as great as these two. And so those are my top 5 favorite phones of the 2010s, with number 1 being the HTC One M7. What is your favorite, and what has been your favorite smartphone from the last 10 years? Let me know in the comment section down below. And that's the end of this video, guys. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you like this video, and if you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. It's been Jay from JayTech. Talk to you guys next time.